gear acquisition syndrome, G.A.S. All right, what's happening, my peeps? Good day to you. Just out driving. I actually went and picked up this lens for my wife, actually. I have the 50 1.2 chunky chonk. So I didn't need another 50 millimeter lens, but I'm trying to teach my wife a lot of photography stuff, and we got her a Canon RF, and she could use my lenses all she wants to, but I thought it'd be nice to have a nifty 50 in the mix. Whatever brand camera you use, there's going to be a nifty 50 equivalent, or plastic fantastic is what they also refer to it. But the lens quality is amazing, and the bokeh in the background is great. Get one of those and experiment. I think a lot of us seasoned pros feel like we always have to get bigger, better, faster, so on, etc. But honestly, some of my favorite pictures were taken with a cheap setup. And like I said, I could take this lens and throw it on my backup camera and just have a little camera I throw in my backpack and capture some amazing stuff. I've done that with my 35 equivalent, because Canon did the opposite, where they released a 35 consumer lens, and they still have yet to really produce the pro lens of the 35. They do have kind of a intermediate lens, and I haven't felt the need to purchase that. I'll still use the consumer lens. It led me to want to address an issue that I see with a lot of photographers, whether you're new or old to the industry. A lot of people think that you need to, switch cameras, you gotta get lenses, this, that, you gotta constantly upgrade to get better, and life couldn't be further from the truth. Now, in the situation with my wife, she don't have anything other than the camera and using my lenses, because I don't want her to use like a kit lens. So I didn't even buy her a kit lens with it. I just figured we'll use the good stuff. And if I didn't have the other stuff, I'd be perfectly fine with this. I mean, you're gonna get a really dreamy background, real creamy looking, real nice render of the blur, and you'll up the ante from a kit lens if you are stuck with kit lens. So spend between $100 and $200 in that one lens, and you're going to be very happy. And hopefully my wife will be very happy too. And we could go out and I could teach her. I could be using my R5 and she could be using her R50. She could throw on that 50 millimeter. I could throw on my 50 millimeter, and we could get similar pictures. Now, if I'm out and about and I have all my gear, she can't shoot, even our pets or whatever. So I thought, all right, we should get her a lens. And there's nothing better than the nifty 50. It doesn't matter who you shoot with, whether it's Canon, Sony, Nikon, Fuji, any of them. There's a nifty 50 equivalent. It's more important to get one good lens, even if it's a cheap lens like a nifty 50, than thinking if you upgrade to a different camera system, or that you have to spend $2,000 to get quality pictures, or whatever you may think. That's the common thing with new photographers and seasoned professionals that get into a rut. All of a sudden they think they need some new gear. Really, you just need to find a way to get inspired. I think the nifty 50 is an amazing way to get inspired, because the rendering of the bokeh in the background is so creamy and nice that it takes a new photographer and makes them look like they are a little more artsy. It takes an artsy seasoned professional and it allows them to tailor their look accordingly. You could always dial your exposure different. You could have different f-stops on a lens that goes down to 1.8 or 1.2 or 1.4. But, if your lens, say is 3.5 or 5.6, whatever is at the start of your kit lens, it's just not feasible. So there's other factors involved, like the crop factor on her camera and stuff like that. That does change the look a little bit. And then my lens is also so much grander that it's going to let in a lot more light and everything else, but it's going to be close. And for the price, you can't beat it. I mean, for 1/10 of the cost of my lens, she could have a lens that will give the look and that focus on the subject really nice with some background separation. And that's really what we're going for. So don't get caught up in the fact that you need to buy a whole bunch of new stuff and new lenses and new cameras. And like the guy that I bought this from, just to hit on this really quick, the guy I bought that from decided to switch from a Canon R6 over to a Sony. Nothing against Sony, but also nothing against Canon. Like if you have a system, whether it be Canon, Sony, Nikon, Fuji, whatever you're using, make sure that you learn that system. Switching to a different system isn't going to get you dramatically different results. If you have the same knowledge, you're not going to get dramatically different pictures. So unfortunately for this guy, he sold his lens at a loss because he thought by switching over to a different brand, he was going to get different results. I highly doubt it. I think that the important thing is that every photographer get themselves a nifty 50, or like in my case, I ended up buying the most expensive 50mm lens that was made at the time because I am a seasoned professional and I just wanted the best of the best for once in my life. So anyway, you don't need that to get great pictures. So my wife doesn't need to use my $2,500 lens on her $500, $600 camera. Although that would make her images pretty stellar, the nifty 50 is not going to be far off. And it's a great lens to grow with. Now, I used the nifty 50 for a long time, and then I upgraded to 1.4 aperture 50, which was pretty darn good. You couldn't get the 1.2s very easily. You had to have them shipped over from Japan way back in the day, and they were ungodly expensive. And then when they came out with the RF mount system, then they started doing 1.2 lenses. Now, you don't need that. But when that came out, that was the only option. There was no nifty 50 unless you adapted an EF lens over. I was kind of in a rock and hard spot, buy the expensive one or, wait until they came out with the nifty 50. Well, now they have the nifty 50 again, and it's great for beginners, and it's great for seasoned professionals that maybe want a light little setup to go with them. Like I could put that on my EOS R, which is my backup camera, and go out and shoot just about anything I want and be totally happy with the end results. I guess what I'm getting at is you don't have to spend $1 million in order to get quality pictures. We should be inspired by our gear that we have, and if you have subpar gear, figure out how to make it render the images that you want. Maybe you need to learn some settings on your camera to get the look that you want. Maybe it's as simple as, okay, I need to change the lens because the lens is what's rendering this image a certain way. But don't go and just buy a whole bunch of new gear thinking that's going to solve the problem. Do it slowly. Don't kill your pocketbook, especially in today's economy. Like, who can afford to just keep switching lenses and switching camera bodies and switching brands? At some point, you got to work on your skills. So anyway, I just want to get on here really quick and say, get yourself a 50mm 1.8 or better aperture. If you could afford a 1.4 or 1.2, or they even have 1.0 like manual focus that I've seen out there, or 0.95 with certain brands. That lower the number, the more light's coming in and the more pinpoint the focus is going to be. But that comes with caveats, like if you have a manual focus lens, you're gonna have to get really good at focusing manually. If you have an autofocus like this lens, that 1.8 aperture, you're gonna have to get used to that depth of field and knowing what's going to make focus, what's not. If you got two subjects in there and you're focusing on one and the other person's a foot back, they're not going to make focus. So anyway, learn your gear. Know that the problem most of the time is not the gear, it's the guy behind the gear. If you work on learning your gear, the gear will matter less and less. So anyway, I'm out here. Don't get G.A.S, gear acquisition syndrome. Just learn the gear that you got. And if you don't have gear that can get the results that you need, update slowly. All right, guys. Peace.